Greetings, fellow residents of the Albuquerque-verse. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
As we wait with bated breath for the final season of Better Call Saul, we thought we'd reminisce over the precursor to our favorite prequel series, Vince Gilligan's masterpiece, Breaking Bad. Focusing on the good moments like Walt building a battery out of pocket change, or moments bad enough you'll want to drown your sorrows in Schrader Brow, and the breathtaking moments of television history breaking apart our minds, along with a 737. Join us as we talk brass tacks with the good, the bad, and the breaking. How you doing tonight, Dragon?
Doing well.
All right. My God, that was an ordeal, but folks don't have to know about what we just went through. How you doing? So, good, bad, breaking. We're back. Season 2. This might be one of the more divisive seasons. And Dragon, I'm gonna say right now, I really do like certain elements of the season. I really love the the cold open factor, and some of the moments that really go on to define it. I really do think the breaking elements that we're gonna get to in this season might be some of the most groundbreaking stuff in the whole show. It really is just stuff rooted in the DNA of the show. Having said that, Dragon, this is also a season where it's the easiest to pick apart some bad stuff. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, season 2. What do you think?
Yeah, season 2 for me, I think it's a great but a tricky season for sure. In that I think it's very well conceived with a few speed bumps. This is the season that expands the world majorly, especially towards the end. Mainly towards the end do we truly probably episodes 8 onwards when we really blow up the world of the Albuquerque-verse. And it's very much Jesse's season. Jesse goes on an odyssey in an episode, in episodes like Down or Peekaboo or what have you. This is very much Jesse's season, which we kind of teed up Walt's season was season 1, season 2 is very much Jesse's, and then it's kind of equally their seasons as we go forward, or maybe there's it's pretty much like an equally shared partnership. So
I would say 3 and 4, Walt, Jesse, and then 5 goes back to Walt.
Yeah, that's what you get. That's pretty fair. And of course, Jesse gets a whole movie, so it evens out. We're all good.
Yeah, exactly.
So now the flaw of the season to me, looking at it again with a fine-tooth comb, the flaw of season 2 is that I don't think they're as zeroed in on the story as 3 onward, because, again, as we mentioned with the first season, there's a bit of unfinished business of season 1 because of that stupid writer's strike. We have the whole Tuco affair to kind of take care of at the top of the season, then the fallout. We have to address the aftermath, but again, we have to tack that on to our brand spanking new season right out the gate. So so there are, I think it's kind of hung up on a little bit of that, which I think distracts from the whole Jane story, which essentially is the whole Jesse Jane kind of through line of the entire season, which is really where the story is meant to start. But season 2, I live for the moments and I live for the payoffs, and I think that's definitely the breaking moments you were alluding to earlier. I think that's very much where season 2 shines. I'm very much in agreement.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the good, and one of the things is, season 1 did absolutely have its fair share of good cold opens, not the least of which is the pilot. The pilot, one of the most memorable cold opens. But I really think season 2 sort of started to perfect them, with season 3 really kind of being the icing on the cake with cold opens, in my opinion. And but season 2, we get some really memorable ones, man. Of course, I don't know exactly where you want the breaking point to be with the 747 down over Albuquerque stuff, Dragon, but you do get those, and they build really well, leads to some of the most iconic imagery in the whole show. And even outside of that, I believe it's the one that just that's just the cold open in the trunk is grilled, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a super memorable cold open to me. There's plenty of them throughout the season.
Yeah, so of course, a lot of the signatures come into fray by seasons 2 and 3. It seems that's where the signatures really, the character work is pretty much season 1. But the cold opens, these artful cold opens that usually tease up or essentially what they've done is very smartly taken the point of the very first cold open, which is, okay, so there was a fear of, like, we're going to lose the audience if we don't, like, show them the payoff, if we don't tease the payoff. So not that they necessarily have that fear if people are watching in the season 2, but they're kind of taking that stylistic, like, yeah, let's tease up where the episode's going, so it kind of builds some intrigue, builds a little bit of a mystery, and what we did with season 2 so ambitiously and so wonderfully with the 737 of it all is that, you know, we're starting off our season with this great sort of black and white and pink mystery surrounding what the heck happened. Why is this bear in Walter White's pool, and why there are guys in hazmat suits? It looks like, oh my God, there was some sort of disaster. What the heck happened here? And you're all this time you're threading over what happened to poor Walt and Jesse. It seems, as more cold opens kind of indicate things, but it's a great way to build kind of this great tonal mystery for the whole season, I felt.
So at this point, Dragon, I think we should bring back the whole part where I was watching the show live from season 2 onwards. I got caught up on season 1 via DVD over that hiatus, and so Dragon, I was in the fan discourse for this season, and what do you think the number one theory was for what all this stuff was leading to?
I want to say the theory was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there was like a meth lab, like maybe the RV exploded, like there's a meth lab explosion.
Yeah. That was the big subversion, Dragon. Is that I feel like everyone kind of thought that it was going to be some sort of meth lab explosion, which is a thing that very much does happen. Yeah,
it'd be shocked if it happened to Walter White, but Jesse, who knows what's going to happen?
Right. So I do think that that's a really clever subversion of expectations, which is, a thing that we'll get more into with the Rian Johnson of it all going forward in the show, but alas.
Yeah. But, I mean, also just to highlight some, I know, like, the whole 737 novels is the big kind of, like, not a lot of the seasons, I mean, not really until 5, that memory serves, do we have, like, a big kind of building series of cold opens in Breaking Bad, but, just, the standard, like, again, we're just upping the game all over with the cold opens from this point on. We're like, Negro y Azul, that's the music video opening. We have, like, the whole, I love that it's not just, like, when I watched for the first time way back when, I was like, what am I watching right now? But when you rewatch, it's like, oh my God, this is a really genius way of saying, people in the know, the cartel are coming for Heisenberg. Basically showing that it's a great way of showing the passage of time, that we don't have to spend like eons just saying, hey, the meth's getting all over the place. Well, we economized. It's getting to the point where it's like in the pop culture of Albuquerque, where, the Heisenberg's a thing now. We're putting them on T-shirts, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so really artfully done there, and I feel like it only gets better in season 3.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of takes a back seat in season 4, but we'll get there. There's
a lot of tension in bags for season 4.
Right. A lot of bags. You're right about that. But
so that brings us to so speaking of artful stuff, let's talk about one of the other things we started here that we really lean into next by season 3. But we start here, the bottle episode.
Yeah, and I will wager that 4 Days Out is the best bottle episode they've ever done in the run of the show, even better than Fly, and I love Fly.
True. Now, I kind of noticed this. So the bottle episodes, of course, Vince Gilligan very much a fan of many eras of TV, especially the 70s. And of course, the 70s very much brings us stuff like All in the Family. Now, All in the Family, basically, I'm not going to say they did it the first time, but at the very least, All in the Family made the bottle, like they historically made the bottle episode a thing again. Like they made it huge.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Very famously, Mike and Archie, they're stuck, I think, in the basement or something, and they're kind of stuck. And it was where the whole idea came from. It's just like have two characters trapped somewhere. Now, I like that there's kind of a build to the bottle episode, depending on how you look at the way we had it structured out here. Because let me highlight 3 episodes. We had Grilled, we got Peekaboo, and we have 4 Days Out. And 4 Days Out is a full-on bottle episode. That's unequivocally a bottle episode. Peekaboo is very much a Jesse episode, but we cut a little bit away from him. And Grilled, outside of the Hank build-up, and what gets Hank from point A to point B, it is very much this awesome kind of stationary location. It's kind of a proto bottle episode.
Grilled is an interesting case because on a conceptual level, it's a bottle episode because of the singular location.
Yes.
But the stakes are so high, it doesn't really fit the general classification of a bottle episode.
Grilled is one of my all-time favorite Breaking Bad episodes.
Oh, I agree.
I love Grilled. Was like one of those moments where I was already. When I told you about that initial binge, like the whole like
when you saw Hector Salamanca and the bell and everything. I mean, it's just insane. It's just. I feel like that's where the show really ramps. I feel like Hector Salamanca, just in general, just the presence of that character, kind of went on to define the rest of the show's style and dark sensibilities and dark comedy.
Very much so. There's also a wonderful kind of passing of the torch kind of generationally, because again, it's very much literally a guy from Scarface. You know, we're ushering in like the big times through our very cinematic TV show. Mm-hmm. It's a very big element. Of course, we have a lot of Scarface actors through the course of the Albuquerque verse, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, so Grilled. I mean, Grilled was like an initial binge of when they were doing like a 24-hour Breaking Bad marathon, building to the finale. When I got in on a horse at the very beginning, I got up to the Grilled episodes. I pretty much got what the full intended effect of season 1 was.
Oh, right.
In one sitting. So this put me to Grilled. So Grilled was an excellent kind of finale for me, in that Grilled is just it's the beginning of what we do all over season 4. It's the experiment. This is the prototype experiment in sustained tension for about like 40-50 minutes.
Totally.
You know, this is just a brilliant episode. It's so tense, yet there's some comedy in it, and I love that. So we have Walt and Jesse at Tuco's mercy, unequivocally, and we tee up some things that are going to come into play in season 4. We tee up. Tuco thinks he's going to take Heisenberg overseas. He's going to take him across the border and set him up in a super lab. One of Don Eladio's super labs that we see Jesse taken to in season 4. And the hilarious thing is that Tuco thinks he has the clout to do that, which he does not. Mm-hmm. And of course, the cousins, which are going to be very big next season, obviously. So we kind of teased them up this episode very majorly. When the cousins come, there's no debate. You're going. Jesse better pray there's room in the trunk. But I just love the comedy of the Walt and Jesse bickering dynamic. If they're bickering in this very desperate situation, like Jesse's this stupid out there suggestion is like, why don't you rush him and I'll run? And he's like, wait, so my life has no meaning because I'm dying anyway? Like, yeah. Just hysterical. Just everything about that episode's great. And of course, Hector and the whole Chili P and the okay, so we get the Chili P has the ultimate payoff here. Tell them about it.
What's the payoff?
Well, the ricin. Remember the ricin? Okay, so we put the ricin in the meth, so that's the intended method on that. So we set up the ricin for the first time.
Yeah, I remember the ricin. I just didn't remember that we were using Chili P.
Well, no, the whole payoff of the Chili P is that Jesse has this stupid signature that he puts in the meth. Like he spikes the meth with the stupid Chili P.
Oh, okay.
And basically they're trying to get their whole plan is like, let's get Tuco to take it. Therefore we kill him, no muss, no fuss, and we get out of this desperate situation we're in.
Right.
Where Jesse tries to sell him on the meth, and he tells him Chili P, and the moment and Walt just hates him when he told him not to do the Chili P thing. He throws him Chili P, and Tuco's about to snort the meth, and like, nope, I hate chili.
Oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah, sure.
Which then leads them trying to poison the. All right,
Dragon. It's been a while since I've revisited these episodes. I'm sorry.
Of course, then Hector has this big shining moment where he protects his family by ditching the chimichanga or something, whatever it is, like the not tacos, like a burrito. Sorry.
Yeah, never before has the sound of a bell been so terrifying.
Remember, that's how we end the episode, too. That's when we got the idea of, when these Hector Salamanca episodes, we just end with, dinging over the credits. which is just it's so simple, it's so intimidating. One of my all-time favorite Breaking Bad moments is in Grilled, too. The whole, I think one of Walter White's shining moments in the infancy is when he saves Jesse's bacon. Jesse finds the rock and, what did you do to my, that's the whole, what did you do to my Dio? Yeah. And he's freaking out, and the whole, what did you do, Walter? And Walt just says, we tried to poison you. Because you're an insane, degenerate piece of filth and deserve to die. And it's just awesome seeing him stick up to Tuco. And I just love the idea. Tuco's had this built-in respect and trust of Heisenberg, and it just bit him in the end. It's great.
Right.
It's wonderful. So why don't you take the reins on Peekaboo, T? Tell folks why Peekaboo's awesome.
Oh, Peekaboo hits me, Dragon. It hits me for very personal reasons that I don't really want to get into in podcast form, but let's just say I know people who, are maybe aren't in this dire of a strait, but could potentially if they go in and, if their lives keep sliding downwards.
And they get their heads crushed by ATMs, yes.
Yes. The ATM thing is awesome and iconic. I mean, that's
honestly, in retrospect, maybe we should. I don't know if we should put that in the breaking or not, but it's pretty cool.
I mean, that's the one kind of really pulpy moment of the episode for sure. But no, Dragon, I still have a hard time watching this for good reason. Because of especially with the kid. It's because I do have a brother who is, he's not in an abusive home, but he's in a home where it's I'm not a fan of some of the people that my mom associates with. And so, yeah, I mean, watching this episode does hit for me, man. It really does. It's, I feel like it's one of the most underrated episodes of Breaking Bad.
Peekaboo is this wonderful and very strategic demonstration of the humanity of Jesse Pinkman that's on display here.
Absolutely.
We have two moments, very singular moments that we pay off various times in the Albuquerque verse. So one, Jesse Pinkman has a soft spot for kids because essentially he's a big kid. He very much is. He's easier on kids because he felt he wasn't treated easier by his parents. Essentially he wasn't treated right by his parents. He feels. And of course, very much this leads to a lot of the Brock stuff, the whole Tomas and stuff like that. And the other thing too is this is the episode with the Beetle. Remember where he's holding the Beetle, it crawls over his hands and everything. This Jesse Pinkman literally won't harm a fly, despite try as he may, which I think technically eventually does in that episode. But
right.
So it's all subversive. So who knows? But it's just ultimately the whole crush the man's head with the ATM thing very much leads to one of my favorite exchanges between Walt and Jesse. Jesse, you're the blowfish. What does the blowfish do, Jesse? And so he's at a loss because he's all in mourning and everything. It's all the trauma he endured seeing a man's head crushed. The blowfish puffs up, Jesse. You can be the blowfish. Just Walt trying to be the teacher yet again, and just falling on deaf ears with the stoned and just despot Jesse right now. Yep. All right. So most importantly, 4 days out.
Yeah, I mean, 4 days out is one of the best episodes of the series. I think. I mean, I don't even know what to me, that's the moment when I was watching the show live, where I was like, oh, this just doesn't have the potential to be a great show. This already is a great show right now. This is just super duper compelling. I mean, I really think this episode is a watershed moment for the show.
I will go as far as to say this is quite possibly the best episode of Breaking Bad in total. It's that good.
If we were to rank them, I would say that it'd be easily in both of our top threes at least.
So basically, we take Albuquerque's Odd Couple and we put them in this All in the Family situation, very iconically the bottle episode where they're trapped in the desert and the RV ain't going anywhere and they're far out so they don't get bothered by anybody. And we just have this great ticking clock of the uncertainty of Walt's diagnosis. And I love that setup, by the way. It's the whole reason Marie's in the first season to set up this whole payoff here. This whole a technician can tell you if something's looking good or not.
Right.
And obviously, Walt, Saul Goodman's, make hay while the sun is shining. He's motivating. We gotta lie to Jesse to get him out there. We gotta make all the meth we can so he can make money while he has at least maybe a week or two left. He went from months to weeks. It's not good. So we see the dynamic at play. Major life and death consequences at work here if they don't work together to solve this problem, and just dire and hilarious circumstances yet again with these two. I think it's the best. It's kind of the best situation to put them in, as if season 4 is any indication.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of the definitive Walt and Jesse episode. From a bonding perspective, I think.
Yeah, it's top-tier storytelling. Again, the scientific solution I think that's the key to what makes it really work in the end. Everything else is great. I love seeing Walt, dressed in Jesse's clothes so he doesn't freeze to death at night. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious.
The ending is the origin of Jesse's, kind of fascination with science, and I love that.
Yeah. I love it's so hilarious, too. Remember the whole, he's trying to teach him, again, as I mentioned in the opening, the whole, Walter White literally made a battery out of pocket change. which is amazing. If you have any, do you have any change? I need like zinc, copper, washers, that sort of stuff. They basically make makeshift batteries that helps help start the engine out of the stuff you find around it. But getting there, like the dynamic is so simple. It's that Jesse throws out these stupid suggestions, and then that triggers like one of those stupid suggestions triggers something in Walt to actually find the solution. And he tries to teach Jesse how exactly they're saving their bacon. Like you said it yourself. We're building a robot? No,
Oh God!
a robot. And it's like trying to teach them like copper. It's very clearly copper if you look at the thing. Wire, like what element? Wire is stupid. It's wonderful. So just great stuff, and also big payoff. Jesse, he grasps Walt's situation, seeing that he's quite clearly dying, and he promises to get the money to his family. Really sweet moment between the two, and it's that promise of getting the money to his family. Good, great character stuff with those two.
And that big moment at the end too.
Absolutely.
I would wager the ending is like a definitive Walter White moment. You know, Walter White literally so freaked out about having a positive diagnosis that he punches the mere reflection of himself, he beats it.
Just that all for nothing moment is perfect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. It's genius, and of course, very much paid off, even more so in El Camino. So wonderful.
Oh yeah.
They didn't go to Denny's like they intended to, but it was the next best thing. All right, so let's see. So let's talk. Should we talk more Pinkman, or should we just talk some of the the world-breaking stuff?
Let's see. Let's introduce some characters, and then circle back to Pinkman.
It's a big feather in the cap of season 2. We introduce major important characters in the Albuquerque-verse. Characters that expand our world majorly.
And there's one in particular, I think you know who it is, that we're going to save for the breaking category.
Right now we're going to focus on our cartel guys primarily.
Yeah, so of course we already discussed Hector Salamanca. I don't really think there's much more to say with him.
Yeah,
Gus Fring, though, my God, what a groundbreaking character introduction.
Seriously, it's an intriguing setup for Fring, and of course, Poyos. Essentially, Poyos Hermanos, the whole thing, just as essentially Walter White aspires to be, even at this late stage in the season, he wants to be Gus Fring, who's in control, and he has a perfect balance of both sides of his life. He's hiding in plain sight. He's everything that Walter White wants to be right now.
Yeah, I live for, again, Dragon, these memories of, these first reveals of these characters are seared into my head watching it live. I'm so glad I got to watch this show live, because the moment when I realized that the smiley, Obama-looking manager guy was the guy, oh man, that was a moment, Dragon.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, just like Cranston, I love Walt is able to sniff it out in him. He just figures it out, just sitting there. And it's like, again, Cranston's scenes, it gets even better in season 3, but Cranston's scenes with Giancarlo Esposito, when things are going well, are just wonderful and fascinating in their own right before we get into the whole chess game of season 4. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just seeing the two of them kind of sizing up each other, and just there's a fascination at play, and deep down, I think deep down, and this is just knowing what we know now and everything, just I think deep down Gus likes Walt because he's a chemist, and because he likes him because he's a chemist, a little bit like Max, I imagine, like Max, Arsen Yeager. Sorry, not Max. Well, Max Arsen. Anyways, Max. And Gus, I think, can also respect the loyalty to Jesse Pinkman, much like Gus's loyalty with his partner, with Max. So I think that's what kind of clinches, Walter White is my guy. I can do business with this man. I want to do business with this man, even though he's working with a junkie.
Sure. All right. Really big stuff there. And then, of course, I believe he gets introduced literally in the finale, Dragon. Mike Ehrmantraut.
Do you know the story behind this?
Okay, was he only supposed to be just the one scene cleaner guy?
Not exactly. Let me tell you real quick. Is that Mike was created because Bob Odenkirk was busy filming How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, okay. So they needed someone who showed up on behalf of Saul Goodman.
Yeah, well, Saul Goodman was supposed to be there, but they couldn't get
Uh-huh.
Saul Goodman. So, okay, well, Saul had a guy. So that enter, like, we need someone who's going to be really legitimate because we can't just use our already established characters. We need someone who's got instant legitimacy, and we love the
Yeah,
show Wise
yeah.
Guys. So let's get a character actor who can do really good with the role. Let's get honestly one of the first big character actor pools. Of course, the Albuquerque verse loves their character actors, so we get Mike Ehrmantraut played by the wonderful, the ever celebrated Jonathan Banks as just this fixer and cleaner character that I guess when they're coming at season 3, it's like, hey, let's bring this guy back. We love Jonathan Banks. Let's put him in the show more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, we'll talk way more about Mike going forward into future seasons, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
certainly a memorable introduction.
And behind the scenes, retroactively, once we established that Mike went to the high school. That's how we found where Walt was, Saul Goodman. Basically Mike. There was this whole deleted scene. I can't explain where exactly it was shot. I don't know if it was intended for season 3. I'm pretty sure this was shot somewhere. I think I've seen it too. Is that I know they made a comic of it too. So I don't know if I'm purely thinking of that, but there's a behind the scenes story of you get to see Mike putting in the PI work to find Walter White at the high school that Saul's talking about. So it was actually that's what, like, when we actually blend Better Call Saul with Breaking Bad, I fully expect to see that scene at some point. At least a part of me would love to see that scene. In terms of, like, that's how we get Cranston in there naturally, because use the clips from that. Assuming they shot him like I think they did.
Right, yeah.
Just given the last minuteness of Mike, that's the only thing that makes me question that. I don't know when they would have been able to shoot that, so it might have been supplementary. I'm not sure. But
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, okay, so let's transition into, like you said, the Odyssey of Pinkman, man. Jesus, this kid has it rough this season, man.
Oh yes, the Pinkman Porta Potty Odyssey.
He literally wails in shit, Dragon. He literally wades around in shit. In blue shit.
In chemical stuff. Well, blue chemical crap.
Oh god, Dragon, it's honestly a little, like, it's hard to watch. I tell you what's really hard to watch, Dragon, all the scenes with his parents, not in a bad way, but in kind of like, I feel like the scenes with his parents, like, hit so hard that it's almost, like, out of tone with the rest of the show's, like, kind of more pulpy tone. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, man. It really does give Pinkman a motivation and a sympathy. I'm gonna just say it. His parents are pieces of shit and probably the worst people in the entire show from a moral perspective.
Yeah, here's the thing with his parents. I always feel there's this one element of his parents always gives me like a swell of pity every time I see them. Is that it's a very simple, it's like an instinctual thing. Jesse's mother is so well cast because she looks like she could absolutely be Aaron Paul's mom.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's like on a casting
I'm
level.
just saying my issue with the parents is that they're literally like kicking him out for weed. And I'm saying, Dragon, if my parent could... What?
They kicked... Oh, do you mean... Well, no, they kicked him out for a meth lab, too, so there's that.
No, I get the meth lab thing, but I'm saying specifically in season 2, they kick him out for having a joint.
Yes, and this season as well, they kick him out for the meth lab. That's why he's going to the apartment.
Do they find the meth lab in season 2?
Tiki, how does he get the Jane? Tell me that.
All right.
Right? I mean, how can he get from point anyway? But no, you're right. That also happens as well, where they kick him out for weed. But the idea, though, is like Jesse's been a problem child for a long time. Kind of, he's kind of been the disappointment in the rise. So, I mean, there's a story there we're not getting. I think there's a part of me feels there's like a justified history there, but I feel bad that it has to happen again. I feel bad like this yet again. It's like they're kicking him out for that because they think the other child is their new pride and joy. He's corrupting him, where in reality not the case at all. That's pride and shame for sure. Yeah, that we teased. I think we might have done that in season 1 now I think about it. I think. I'm not sure. I don't know.
All right.
But you're right, though. Jesse, glutton for punishment this season. But again, so we can learn, so we can grow. And that I like that we filter out Jesse Pinkman's potentially annoying qualities by really leaning into him and showing a consequence so we can gain sympathy, you know? Like Jesse's, he's doing all the yo-yo stuff in season 1. It's like, he's messing around. He's doing all sort of stuff, and we show, there's a consequence there. And Jesse in the aftermath, he loses everything, and Walt comes down on him. I feel really bad for Jesse. And Walt's coming down on him, even though it is justified. Jesse's making mistakes, but just now knowing all the stuff that he's lost in following Walt's orders, it's like, oh man, come on, Walt, ease up on the kid a little bit,
Jesse has just the most tragic story in the whole show, really, if you track it. I mean, top to bottom, look at where he ends up in season, at the end of season 3.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, let alone the end of the series,
Yeah, honestly, when you think about it, every season we end things horribly for Jesse. When you really think about it,
I don't think is there ever a point in the series where things are actually going good for Jesse?
I mean, very, very briefly, but again,
arguably when he's working for Gus, but even then, it's it's only manipulation.
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much there's that one brief shining period where he has the girl, he's got Brock, and he's was it Andrea or is that yeah, it's Andrea? No, I keep wanting to say Andrea because of Phantasm, but it's not right. He's got Andrea and Brock, and then again he's kind of the apple of Fring's eye, kind of having replaced Walt. That's when for that moment things were going great, but then Walt kind of took that away from him. We'll get there.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so with it's that again. He's going through all this hardship, and the thing that's fascinating is that Walt is not wrong at all for being upset with Jesse, but he really should consider that Jesse is not prepared for the hardship that Walt's going through 24/7. That the kid is now having thrust upon him all at once. That's the thing, and I mean Jesse again. Basically, what we're going to really lean into next season that we tee up here is that Jesse is not cut out to be Heisenberg at all. And that whole Blowfish arc, we're
yeah, exactly. The peekaboo of it all is definitely the main point there for sure.
Yeah, and I love that in that too. We have what gets into the peekaboo thing is the whole. He suggests we shoot Tuco, and we have that wonderful conversation with the gun of how many shots is it going to take? This is an actual genuine conversation of let's say we do this. How many shots is it going to take? And Jesse can't even open the gun. So given where he goes, not even El Camino, I'm just talking, given where he goes in season 4 with a gun, it's really fascinating to see, oh my God, he was all thumbed. He was like Fredo with that gun, man.
Sure.
All right, and ultimately, I want to talk about the RV real quick. It's going to be really important next season.
Oh yeah.
When Jesse has nothing, he's sleeping in that RV. Once he crosses his way through the porta potty. The RV has such great reverence and importance, and ultimately, in the episode Down, we kind of see the RV as the symbol of this is the only home the two of them really have, which is the symbol of their partnership. This RV is right now things are going terribly at home for Walt, and Jesse has no home. It's after we drag Jesse through that literal chemical toilet. He's trying to rebuild his life from that. He's trying to rebuild. He's trying to build genuine things here. He's not cut out to be Heisenberg. We're highlighting the humanity. Jesse wants just so he can kind of start over again. He wants wants an apartment. He wants maybe a woman he can settle down with. That's all he wants.
Yeah, sure. All right, so let's transition into the bad dragon. The bad. All right, so we have the fugue state, which is a very solid idea from a writing standpoint. It's a very believable lie.
Yeah.
And Dragon also, it is a very stressful moment, a very memorably stressful moment. So Skylar, I don't blame her for having reservations about it. But holy shit, do we drag it out?
All right, so let me start the thing here. Okay, so one, I love that Walt had a plan. I love they had a really we start the episode right after Grilled. I think it's the dead bee bitch or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's a Peter Gould episode. Our guy Peter Gould, he wrote that one. I think it might have been the first I'm not sure if that's the first episode he wrote, but it might have been. And that's an episode of great aftermath I could picture on Better Call Saul. That's Walt coming at it with a plan, as well as Jesse, and they're both kind of basically we're seeing the plan, kind of go forward, and seemingly it's working and all that. But so again, the initial aftermath is great. That's all nice, but the fallout not so much. Which brings us to Skylar being probably the problem character of season 2. Now I want to address this before I really rail in. So Vince Gilligan very notably, he defends Skyler. Skyler got, I mean, at the time, I think you could speak to this better than I, but Skyler got a lot of hate back in the day, didn't she?
Oh, she was railroaded. She was the most hated character on TV without a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even afterwards, there was still a little bit of it. It's not as bad as it once was, but it's not good. The Vince Gilligan, he's always been on record. He's defended her, and I absolutely respect that. But I will say this though, okay? I respect Vince Gilligan. I'm not just saying it's the kiss up to the man. I'm saying that he makes a case for Skyler that I feel applies seasons 3 onwards. That Skyler is in a complicated situation, obviously. And I feel season 3 shows that complication, and season 4 we do something with said complications. But the stuff in season 2, man, there's a lot of inexcusable, there's like inarguable, stuff with Skyler in season 2. That it's like you can make all the arguments you want. I will absolutely hear them out, but I mean, she's acting very petty and childish in season 2. Like she gives Walt and Marie the silent treatment. She just won't talk to him. She's just doing these various petty acts. Like I'm not just throwing petty around like half-hearted. I mean, she's doing like stuff just to be petty towards another human being. Like she's just going out, no explanation. They keep doing this really catty thing of like, what did I do? It's the most passive-aggressive, Anna Gunn at her most passive-aggressive. And as sad as it is to say, this might be crossing the line a little bit, Anna Gunn's performance this season, I don't know if it's her best. Really not.
No, it's easily her worst out of the series, I think, collectively for a season. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I don't think she'd argue that.
Yeah, it's...
But the thing about Skyler White, Dragon, as a character, as you alluded to, is that I feel like she's one of the last characters to really fall in line with Vince's vision for the show. But man, once she was there, I mean, I still maintain that I think, give all the praise you want to the big shootout finale of Felina, but I think the biggest scene in Felina for me personally was the Walt and Skyler conversation.
It was a big scene for sure.
Yeah. So I really do think that by the end they had Skyler nailed. Like I feel like she was just as pivotal a part of the equation as anyone else. In season 2, like you said, it was like in season 2, the writers knew that she was in a difficult situation. They just didn't know how to handle said difficult situation.
And again, just to give the writers a break too, is the fact that Skyler can't know until the end of the season, and she would very logically have questions that Walt can't answer. That's a very I would envy any writer in that position. Like, oh my God, what the heck are you gonna do? Like the stall for? I mean, you're doing a 13-episode season compared to the 7-episode opener.
And you know what? I will counter that, Dragon. That I do think that the ending of season 2, right before the plane crash, I honestly think Skyler laying everything on the table. This is a hot take, but for me, that might be even more effective than the plane crash itself, as far as a cliffhanger goes.
I hear your point on that, Tiki. Is the only issue I have is that's her performance in that scene. That's where I really.
I'm not going to argue the performance, but I don't really think she's supposed to be likable in that moment. But I do think writing-wise, they do a good job of, writing Walt into lies that he can't get out of that build over the course of the season.
You're right about that unequivocally. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm focused on the whole. It gets like a big gloaty speech. Like Kim Wexler would never have.
No, it is a big gloaty speech for sure. But I'm just saying, I do think the moment illustrates the consequences of Walt's actions in a really direct way, and I appreciate that at least.
You're right about that, sure. And again, I like how we link it to the big 737 of it all. Yeah. You're right about that. But anyway, so it's just with the Scout, I'm just going to round it out here. Is just saying, like, again, like she's doing things like again, my biggest thing is that everyone saying like, oh, she's in a, she's like, we're coming down on Scout. Like, look, even though she's suspicious, she could cut the guy a break. He is dying, after all. Dying husband, and she's never cut a break.
Okay, my whole thing is have a conversation.
Yes. Which we know for a fact can be done in the Albuquerque. Of course, we have the complete antithesis to Skyler and Kim Wexler. Wonderful goddess of a character. Yes. Wonderful, like the angel of mercy of the ABQ, if you will. Just just this wonderfully interesting character who, again, talks.
And I just want to reiterate, she's not perfect because she lets Jimmy get away with murder. She's perfect because, like you said, she has the conversations. She hears Jimmy out. You know, the two of them have different points of view and they come to compromises.
Yeah, and like versus Skylar, who's like smoking while pregnant, essentially to spite her husband, but really it's like, hey, let's take it out on the baby. Let's take it out on the fetus.
Right. IFT is next season, right?
That is next season. I'm going to rail on that.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But we hint at it. We set it up here, though. So here's the thing. Even before she's officially having the affair, if you look at it, she's flirting with Ted. Like, she knocks him with a pencil cup. Get him in there. And this is before.
You know what? I will forgive a lot of the Ted stuff, though, just because I fucking love the payoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the frustrating thing. There's payoffs. You know, and here's the thing I completely forgot about until my rewatch of season 2. This is an even bigger problem.
I mean, Ted is directly involved with, like, I think unequivocally the most iconic moment in the whole show.
He is. But here's something I noticed on the rewatch season 2. I'd never noticed before is that, yeah, she was. So Skylar, I like how proactive she was in season 1, and season 2 that was like a lack of proactivity, where she's doing stuff just to spite Walt and just basically reiterate, I'm upset with you not telling me things. Mm-hmm. So we learn in the big scene you were talking about, the big, the speechy, big gloaty speech scene. That again, pivotal to the plot for sure. But we learn that she's been proactive behind the scenes. I don't know, since the second cell phone gets brought up in the twilight sleep state or whatnot. But she now is suddenly proactive, did a lot of behind the scenes due diligence to uncover the lies. But instead of just being upset, she could, I don't know, confront him on these matters, talk to him instead of
that's the issue.
Yeah, it's that, and also. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think she was a little overly harsh on Marie, too, in that knowing, once we established that Marie got a mental illness, essentially, kleptomania, and I'll admit, there is a problem with Marie. I'm going to bring that up, too. Let me bring up the Marie thing. So Marie's
with Marie, I feel like it's more of a season 3 thing, but...
Well, sure, but no, I'm saying there's like one specific thing with Marie here versus that. So here's a logical question, Tiki. How can Marie be in denial when she's in therapy at the same time about said issue? Like, she's pretending that the issue does not exist to her sister. She can't cop to it like at all when she's talking.
You know what, Dragon, as someone who's been around the mental illness community, I can say that's a thing. Like, you'd be surprised.
Like, literally, denial. She tells her husband she's in therapy. She can't tell her sister.
Denial is a big part of mental illness, Dragon.
I guess. I don't know. It's...
Yeah, like, I don't know, as someone who's been around the block with therapists and stuff, like, I've experienced that myself, where it's like, I know for a fact that I have issues, but I don't want to admit them to people. Honestly, Dragon, I can think of things in my own life right now. I can point to examples of that, so, All
right, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe agree, disagree, but fine, fair enough. So, regardless.
I smoke way too much weed, but I don't like talking about it, and I don't like admitting it. But, I admit that it's a part of my life. That's an example.
Which apparently Marie can't. Which is my point. She just can't admit, like, right. Oh, yeah, so, Skylar, I see a guy on the regular, my therapist. We give him a name, too. We give Dave the therapist. And I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, overall, again, I don't want to belabor the point any further with Skylar. Yeah, it's all just, again, she lists out a series of complaints, yet civilly directs none of them to the other party. It's just, it's ridiculous. And the avocado face mask sex seems weird. All right.
It was. I'm not going to...
I'm uncomfortable on many levels. I get, like, Walt's trying to measure up to Tuco in a weird, odd sense, but it's weird.
Why are you trying to measure up to Tuco, Walt? You're fine all on your own.
It's just kind of getting the adrenaline out all the wrong ways. So let's see. So again, the rest I think are mainly nitpicks. But for example, the El Paso stuff. So the El Paso stuff's kind of melded in with a bit of season 3, but it's mainly here though. So the El Paso affair is that.
I like the El Paso stuff a lot more than you do. I will say this isn't necessarily an anonymous.
Unanimous.
I'm sorry, a unanimous call for a bad category here. I don't think it's Hank's most compelling stuff, but I think it's certainly a big level up from his season 1 stuff.
It was kind of funny. There's this. So this is not necessarily a knock. I'm just kind of an observation that you notice it's kind of in the writing. When in doubt, traumatize Hank to throw him off the scent.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, not a problem. Just kind of a funny observation. Yeah, when in doubt, traumatize Hank. Do something bad to him. But so, Walt, via Tuco, kind of sends him to El Paso, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that we tackle PTSD with Hank at all. I think we handle a little better in season 3 in terms of how we do that, but that's not necessarily the problem. The problem to me is we send the guy who's really out of his element to El Paso. That we spent a lot of time in season 1 showing. Yeah, he's just insulting everybody. Going on all sorts of slurs and everything. It ain't not really
right.
We take him the dumb jock thing. I get the idea. The intention, the payoff is nice, but we don't really get that till 3, where he's the jock who kind of he gets smart as we go along. He kind of grows out of that. As we humanize Hank and just take him from kind of the jocular sort of basically the jocular cringy guy, and we just put Hank in the kind of this cringy situation where hey, he's in El Paso and he doesn't speak Spanish and everyone hates him.
All right, I've got 2 rebuttals to that. All right.
I mean, by all means, what do you got?
Number 1, I think the depiction of his panic attacks are honestly one of the most realistic depictions of panic attacks I've seen on screen as someone who does suffer from them.
And no issue with the panic attacks, but yeah.
And then 2, I do think that at least 1 or 2 sequences in El Paso, specifically the head on the tortoise dragon, Danny Trejo's head on the tortoise. That's got to be one of the best images of Breaking Bad, right?
Tortuga.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the best scene or the best story, but just it is an image. It's just iconic.
Hola, DA. Yep.
All right. But yeah, I mean, it's not the best part of the season by any stretch, Dragon. I'm not going to argue with you there.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so I mean, overall, just kind of lumping things in. It's kind of like there's a bit of season 2 suffers from kind of a pacing and a downtime issue. I felt. And did you have any of this?
It's definitely the slowest paced season of the show. Easily, because I feel like once you get into season 3 and 4, it's just because season 3 is a little bit more slow paced because we spend some time in the aftermath of the plane crash at the beginning. But it's once you're in, you're in. And then with season 4 and 5, obviously, I feel like both those seasons in different ways are just rapidly paced. So yeah, this by comparison, it definitely pumps the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, this is not an exact kind of breakdown, but essentially, season 2 is kind of broken up into 3 parts, and the middle's a bit of a killer. Because there is a logic, and it's not necessarily a flaw. It's there is a logical wait time at play because so they finished up the Tuco thing, which we had to put into the season at the top because we had to finish up that story, and so they're not just going to go right back to it because they're not going to go necessarily right back to because they have to be in the aftermath of that story. Like getting the Jesse has to get money and Walt has to kind of deal with this fugue state fallout. Mm-hmm. And basically, until Better Call Saul, the episode, we don't really pick things up again, and we just kind of have to set up things in the middle there. So it's just kind of like we're kind of waiting to cut for a few things, and again, stuff like Skylar insulting Walt making breakfast. I don't really need that. I don't need all the Walt being tortured by the passive aggressive wife stuff. I don't need that kind of stuff like Flynn. How do you feel about the Flynn thing? By the way, I don't think we've ever talked about it. The whole
Dragon, I'm not a big Walter Jr. fan in general, so no, I'm not into it.
I always felt the Flynn thing is we need to come up with something for Walter Jr. What's another way we can just get in kind of tear Walt down a little bit. His son doesn't want to be called Walter Jr.
Right? Yeah,
and we flip it around later.
Walter Jr. is my least favorite character in the show. I'm sorry.
I noticed something occurred to me though, Tiki. Junior has at least one really great scene per season.
Okay, what's his so he's got the cancer thing in season 1. What's his thing in season 2?
Okay, yeah, so it's the I guess the talking pillow scene in 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's in 2. I want to say it's the we do the fundraiser thing.
Oh right, yeah, sure.
We do the fundraiser thing here, and then then well, three's an four is the obvious one. Four is one of the best ones. But that's what I'm saying. Each season, I think I'll find out in three when I
and
rewatch.
5, I'll unequivocally say he's just a compelling presence.
I gotta confirm 3, but I mean, he goes through stuff and through, so I'm assuming there is at least one other moment in 3. But yeah, it gets like at least a moment per season, so at least we have that going for him.
All right.
Let's see, but just with the pacing, it's just there's an episode where everything just slows to a crawl. There's one problem episode. The episode Over. So Over, like I just want to say, like episode Better Call Saul was like smooth sailing for our plot, but there's one hiccup right after 4 Days Out. Like, how can you not have a problem after the excellent episode that is 4 Days Out? It's hard to top. So we basically Over is somewhat of it's a second gray matter situation. Okay, it's like we tried to do the gray matter idea over again. That's not a problem. Like it's an interesting idea. But I just felt we didn't handle it as best as we could. Where it's just a really uncomfortable episode where logically Walt's problems are tabled. Walt doesn't have any problems right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in doing so, it's like, okay, well, we took the cancer away from Walt. He's just feeling really weird about things, and that he's just like, I did it all for nothing, and
it's a very meditative episode, but it doesn't have like the Ryan Johnson style that something like The Fly does,
Yeah, and like the party scene, did you feel cringy at that party scene? Is it just?
I feel cringy with most of the party scenes in the show, Dragon. Honestly.
Yeah, and honestly, here's the thing: I can't discount Over because the ending was really good. The ending of Over is when he's basically trying to distract himself with the whole crawl space of it all. He's building that crawl space.
Right. But you know what? I'm glad you're mentioning this because in the moment I do remember. I'm just like, what the heck is he doing? It's literally like Dragon. It's very much like Fly. It's very much a predecessor to Fly, but it's just a lot weaker. Where it's like, if Fly, it's the same thing where he's hyper fixated on one thing, and in this episode, it's fixing the crawl space. It's just with Fly, it's a lot more interesting.
Sure, absolutely, and I just mean I love the whole stay out of my territory moment, and the big take. Here's like Over's big takeaway, and it's an important takeaway, but I just wish it wasn't as. It just made me feel as weird. Is that this is in the arc that we're tracking, the whole Mr. Chips the Scarface of it all. Is that this arguably is when he is emotionally coming to the evolution of, well, I did it for my family. Now it's over. Now I want to keep doing it. Therefore, it's for me. So this is kind of the beginning of him making the switch from doing it for my family to doing it for me.
Right.
Or at least he's kind of coming to that realization of like, well, I have no reason to do it right now, but I want, I want to do it. So therefore, I want to be I want to be the kingpin.
Yeah.
All right. So let's enough with the down talk, man. Enough of this over talk. Enough dragging the ship down, man. Let's talk the breaking aspect. Let's talk all the good stuff, the really good stuff. One could say the good man stuff.
Oh no, I need legal representation. Whatever shall I do? What do I say? Oh wait, I know. Better call Saul. Oh man, I can't wait till we can say that again for real.
Yeah, me too.
But Better Call Saul. I mean, that episode, Dragon. In the moment, I was just like, "Oh, are you fucking kidding me? This character is so much fun. I am so down for this."
So Saul Goodman, clearly the breakout star of the Albuquerque-verse, proven by the fact we've given him a roughly 6-season TV show.
Right. I would wager to say that Jimmy McGill is a character even better transformation than Walter White.
Yeah, I will. Much as we're going to praise Breaking Bad, gun to my head, without a second's hesitation, I will say Better Call Saul.
Yeah, yes. That is not something I was expecting to say with Better Call Saul, but alas, that's the world we live in.
But and here's the thing: rewatching again, I've rewatched. Honestly, when I go back to Breaking Bad, sometimes I would sometimes, for the purposes of our show, I would go back to the Saul Goodman episode, Better Call Saul.
Sure.
Something occurred to me on this watch, kind of hence the way we've been breaking things down, is that the Saul Goodman character truly allows greater and more creative story opportunities. He was very huge in what he did for the show, and that. He brings us to the big leagues. He prevents us from being, and not that this necessarily couldn't have worked, but we would have been on the precipice of retreading kind of the Tuco story again, in which we keep that's as high level as it gets. In which it's like, okay, well, there's stakes, just the usual kind of like street level drug dealer stuff, and before we kind of explode things and just kind of go big, and also factor in there are complications. We need to upgrade our. basically, we need to upgrade our storytelling, which is, Sullivan gets us to a 4 days out. Like, hey, I can get you big money, but you got to make more product.
Mm-hmm.
It's
he's an absolutely pivotal part of the puzzle for sure. Obviously we have the connect to Gus Fring. That's a huge deal.
Of course, and Mike, very, very bigly, kind of incidentally in this season, but, very bigly ultimately. Again, Sullivan, he just serves a logical and inevitable story purpose that Walt and Jesse, at some point in their criminal enterprise, they're going to need a lawyer, and they can't go to HHM.
Uh-huh.
And of course the commercial is the perfect introduction to everything you need to know about this character. We have a character who can essentially be the voice of the audience, calling Walt and Jesse out on them being newbies and they need a better distributor. Enter Gus via Mike, and again, it's great. I love the whole fun Jimmy In and Out setup. With my favorite thing from the Better Call Saul episode, and I love everything about that episode. My favorite aspect is just the classic Walt and Jesse shenanigans through a Saul Goodman scheme. Okay, so we got Jimmy In and Out, and he's going to sit on the bench. He's going to go to jail because it's his whole thing. We paid him money, and he sits on the wrong bench. Right, I guess Badger sits on the wrong bench.
Uh-huh.
And it's this hilarious thing of Walt distracting Hank entertains me to no end, because in this episode we have a legitimately, honestly, Hank from this episode onward improves, in my opinion. Hank improves after the El Paso, after the El Paso Tortuga bombing, and he's back home in this episode. And Walt gives him like a genuine, you kick him in the teeth, whole the pep talk.
Sure.
And he's like, he follows up on the pep talk, and there's a little scene here like, Hank, do you need the talk? You feeling okay? He says, Walt, move, get out of here, you're in the way. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you want me to go forward? He's like, yes, just go forward, just go. We'll talk later.
God.
And it's just hysterical. I love it so much. But so all he is. He loves the money potential of the drug dealers. We have the wake up call in the high school classroom scene. He basically equates it to the Godfather levels. Right now, you're Fredo. I need to be your Thomas Hagen. It's wonderful. I love everything about this character, and I really do wonder if we're going to put Bob Odenkirk in makeup to add the extra pounds when we get to the end. We don't need it, but because it's so good. But I wonder if we're going to do that. That's like the one thing you would look back at these episodes. He lost weight through the show, but this first episode, a little fuller.
Just really quick, one of my favorite moments from that episode that doesn't really get cited all that much is it doesn't really have to do with Saul himself, except his face is on the bench. But I do love the cold open with DJ Qualls Dragon.
Yeah, are you a cop?
Hey man, can I buy some pot? No, man, I'm pretty sure there's a rule that if you ask me if I'm a cop, I have to answer yes. DJ Qualls, very minor character, but another Lost alum, by the way.
I can beat that. He is in Supernatural.
Ah, nice. But, okay, so, let's get to other breaking stuff. So, Killing Jane Dragon. Sounds like the name of an early 2000s alternative metal album, but Killing Jane.
Let's talk about the ever wonderful Kristen Ritter.
Yeah, man. I didn't even realize for a while. Of course now I know, but for a hot minute there, I didn't realize that her and Jessica Jones were one and the same. But I mean, God, I really do feel like her character in general is one of the most morally gray things about the whole show. Just her whole presence, from when she was with us, with Jesse, all the way up until the death itself, which is arguably the most morally gray moment in the series. The gray area, that's exactly what I think of when I think of her character.
I caught something really surprising on the rewatch, completely forgot about. Is that there is actually a really subtle setup to the Jane events right at the top of the season, incidentally.
Is there?
Yeah, when Nodos, when Tuco beats the ever-living crap, basically beats him to death, Nodos.
Uh-huh.
Walt is told to, basically, do CPR and everything, and we set up that Walt knows, no, they don't teach that anymore. Walt's up to date on all the CPR stuff, and basically the whole, obstructive breathing of it all, and it's a little tease. I know we firmly do it with Holly, baby Holly, and we put the baby on its side, and also, Jane puts Jesse on his side, so she even knows it too. Like,
Yeah, that was a big setup. Yeah.
But you know what's great about that setup too? There's an ambiguous kind of setup there where, I mean, I assume that Jane does really like Jesse, but by the same token, it's a question of, like, now that he's the cash cow, I got to protect the cash cow after I learn this fact, or is it, how much of that is the addiction versus the love? That's a question.
Sure.
And of course, kind of is also her fate. So, but yeah, so seriously, Kristen Ritter, I love her chemistry with Aaron Paul when you go back to it. I mean, particularly the moment that charms the heck out of me. It's a small moment. I'm sure you remember. It's this them holding hands in front of the blank TV looking for the satellite signal.
Yeah,
it's like the cutest little moment.
Totally.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm rooting for these two kids, knowing how terribly it's going to go. It's
it's not going to go well at all.
They're going to become major addicts, man. I don't mean addicts. They're going to become I'm talking heroin, man. That's bad. So, it's a shame. Basically, these two kids, very much the disappointment in their parents' eyes, the artistic ambitions both of them have, and they both are in need of a change, and you're rooting for them. And, of course, just Jane, as Jesse is grieving, Combo's loss. And I forgot that Combo really was the domino that set a lot of things into.
Oh, he really was. Yeah, absolutely.
And remember, Combo, the guy who gave us the RV.
Yeah, big time. He small but pivotal role there.
Absolutely. And I mean, Jane basically falls off the wagon just to help Jesse out with that heroin. It's introduces money, greed, and all the things that kind of that send everything over the edge. Once we introduce, like, hey, I'm about to have a lot of money, which is like, forget sobriety, let's go full on to heroin country, man.
Right,
the heroin,
right.
then we're gonna get clean, maybe ever.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So I'm gonna save it. We'll talk about her father with the next things. Let's.
Okay.
Wait. I'm sorry. One very important thing we got to talk about. So the death scene itself, Cranston's most iconic.
Oh my God, dude! I remember watching in the moment and just having like a sick to my stomach feeling. Dragon, just
very appropriate.
Oh, I felt fucking numb. Oh God. I will wager to say that outside of Crawl Space, Dragon, this was the most shocking. Crawl Space, and then maybe Confessions, which I wager to say is a very underrated, shocking moment.
It is, seriously. No one ever talks about how
No, but it shook me, man. It shook me when it happened. But I'd say Confessions, this, and Crawl Space are easily like the top 3 of like fucking disturbing me to my core, like in the moment as I was watching it live.
I gotta tell you 2 things about this scene, Tiki. Originally, very different. Originally, Walt deliberately killed her. Originally, Walt basically he turned her over, like he turned her so she would choke very intentionally. And Cranston put a stop to that. Cranston, raised the issue in the scene, and they changed that majorly. And this is the scene. This scene still haunts Cranston, because what Cranston did. I mean, I'm sure, you know this, but it's that Cranston had the picture of his own daughter in this scene.
Oh God. Oh.
And his daughter is at the top of the next season, so she actually get the series. Anyways, the point being, and when they did that scene, when Cranston, he went full tilt with it. It doesn't get any more, like, again, acting and Cranston. Put them together, folks, in the book. Like, that when you look at acting in the dictionary, it's Cranston. That scene, so haunting, and he had to do the cast picture afterwards.
Oh God.
It did not go well. Because he went to a very real place, and like Gilligan, everyone, they kind of noticed, like, oh my God, I think we broke him. How really went with it in that scene, just so powerful. And the fact that Walt's daughter has just been born, and just it's my God.
Yeah.
So Walt very deliberately makes the choice not to do the right thing. That's really like Walt's, again, it's like, I love that each season has a moment like this where Walt is making a life or death decision that we have.
We'll track that. We'll track that for sure.
They have Crazy 8, which Crazy 8 that's defensible. Where it's like, again, it was kind of a him or him situation. He feels bad about it, but it was inevitability. And then it's kind of a tease of what's to come. And, it was a survival choice. And this is also somewhat of a survival choice, but by the same token, it's like Walt could take the loss, and it's kind of that his instinct is to help her, but he relents. He denies that. It's that he thinks, he justifies it to himself. This is going to benefit me and Jesse in the long run. That line of thinking is going to lead to some horrible actions down the line.
Oh yeah.
So just fascinating.
I'm glad you're mentioning the whole like Walt crossing the line once per season thing, Dragon, because I think I can track that where You know, where season 3, of course, it's Gale. Season 4, it's Gus Fring himself. And then season 5, Dragon. I'm gonna pull out an interesting one for season 5. I would say, you know, obviously Gale is kind of like a very innocent but needed necessity at the time. Gus Fring is kind of like more than anything is like the justified one, I would say. But then we circle back around from Gus Fring and we go the exact opposite direction for the end with the Drew Sharp of it all.
Well, I think there's a more obvious one you're not thinking of, but Drew Sharp's a good one.
I'm just saying with Drew Sharp, it's like I know he's not the one that pulls the trigger, but you know he's literally whistling while he works right after it happens, Dragon.
Well, that moment, yes, that moment. I was thinking more a little bit of Mike, but yeah, Drew Sharp with the whistling, yeah.
I mean, yeah, Mike, of course, but I don't know. I think Drew Sharp is like the definitive, like morally gray thing of season.
No, but you're right. That is a line crossing moment.
Yeah,
that's Jesse's chilling wake up call. But we'll talk that later.
Of course. All right.
But anyway, so so the aftermath. Speaking of aftermath, the aftermath of the death of Jane, the 737 of it all. So let's talk about the wonderful. I love this actor, man. Let's talk about the wonderful John Delancey as Donald Margolis, Jane's dad. This is a really well-built story.
You feel such a desperation with this guy, you know? It's like he wants to have a good relationship with his daughter so much. He wants to believe her, but he's been through so much with her, you know? It's heartbreaking. It really is.
I get the feeling you could invest a lot more in Mr. Margolis than you could the Pinkman family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, absolutely. No question. Night and day, Dragon. Night and day.
Of course.
See, kids, this is how you deal with a drug addict. If they need help.
Seriously.
Love.
John Delancey, brilliant performance as her father, and of course one of the most genius scenes, chilling and genius scenes, retroactively in the whole season, is Walt struggling in the basically his struggle in parallel to Walter White's struggle in the bars. They're talking about the scientific discovery of like, hey, we found in the Phoenix, you know, this whole water kind of settlement on Mars. There's water on Mars now. And the whole, it's really going to be like kind of it's actually a chemical thing. It's like, you know, gas on the moon. Yeah. Well, gas on Mars, sorry. But, you know, it's just that great casual scene about two fathers talking with each other, not realizing what one's about. And this is right, remember, Walt, this scene gives Walt pause to go
like
back.
Chronologically, like right before the Jane thing, right?
Yeah, see, the idea is that Walt gave Jesse the money, you know, very reluctant, the whole father-son parallel. Sure. He knows that he really doesn't want, he knows Jesse's going to die. He was really, really prickish about it earlier, just kind of like, Walt was not wrong in that scene, but he was right calling Jesse out on what happens. He didn't have to call Jane, like, the junkie girlfriend. That was a little harsh, and that's where he crossed it. But he gives him the money, and basically he fears that's the last time they're ever going to see Jesse. He's going to kill himself with drugs. And he goes to the bar, and then kind of talking with Donald about kind of like, that kind of gives him the spark to go back to Jesse, and that's when, of course, he kills this poor man's daughter by accident. Well, not accident at all. It's just, he doesn't save her.
Yeah.
And just that causal moment, which we linger on so wonderfully next season in the Fly episode. It's like the story point that has, like, it's like the story could be broken up to like pre-Jane, post-Jane with the ramifications, you know? I know technically we kind of do this with Grill, but this is truly the beginning, at least in a massive sense, the beginning of the cause and effect principle in Breaking Bad, where one character's actions affect the grander story in a major sense. Like, well, and there's no better way to illustrate than the actual plane crash of it all, which you want to get to that? Well, that's exactly what I was referring to. Okay. These actions lead to that, So yeah, with the plane crash, Dragon, I would definitely put the whole 747 down over Albuquerque, like, just how they did that, the episode titles, the black and white, the mystery, the pink teddy bear, all of that groundbreaking stuff. Chef's kiss. Yeah. I would say other seasons of other TV shows would go on to emulate stuff like that, and I honestly don't know if any show has ever lived up to this. And the really interesting thing about this, Dragon, is that this is the most pre-planned a season of Breaking Bad has ever been. And I believe after this, they went into a more kind of freewheeling direction with their writing style. But, with this, it's like they meticulously, like, laid out everything. And I think it really shows with,
just kind of like you said, the cause and effect of like, all the dominoes that had to come into place to cause this exact set of circumstances for the plane crash.
I love one of my favorite details, and again, I have to stress, Steve, because it gets called out hilariously, darkly hilariously at the top of season 3. It's 737.
Uh-huh.
Because, my favorite moment, though, is that the 737 is the amount that Walt calculates is the money he needs to basically be out of the business. 737, right. 700,000, 737,000 is all he needs. And, of course, just a wonderful tee-up to this this horrible thing. Again, it's this wonderful confluence of events where Donald Margolis is an air traffic controller who's who's mourning he should not be back to work yet.
No.
Always the running theme in the Albuquerque verse. People who go back to work when they shouldn't after a crash.
That is a running theme. You're right.
So Walt, at this point, again, if we know he's going to find out, but at this point, it's like when you're watching for percent, if Walt knew, when he eventually finds out like who this guy is and who caused all this, just as Walt's life is crashing down around him, and he's just kind of now realizing, it was all for nothing. Now that he has the money, he had like the frantic. Again, I just want to make sure we get in there at least once. The whole very iconic, he missed. Walt had a crossroads decision to make, where Jesse's, he's doped up on heroin, and his daughter's being born. And he has to make the choice, business or family. It's like, right. Do I get the money to Gus? Do I get the product to Gus Fring, or do I see my family miss the birth of his daughter? These actions have consequences, and all is like all for nothing. He's got all the money and lost the family. Skylar has walked out on him for iffy reasons, let's say, soon to be justified, but And even the bear is on the painting, Tiki. I love that detail. The bear is on Jane's painting. So the bear is what do you take the bear to symbolize?
The loss of innocence.
Okay, that's good. I took it to be a symbol of Jane and Walt's actions.
Okay, because that's interesting.
Because the bear is literally in her painting, so I just kind of associate the two of that, and basically it then becomes a symbol of the 737 event, and basically as we go forward, that eye and like the pieces of the bears, like the bear, the first
to me the broken up bear is like kind of like, to me that's always symbolized like the last burst of the innocent side of Walter White, kind of like, it's gone. Like after this season, there's nothing left of Walter White that's, on a morally good scale anymore.
I think it's absolutely the apt way to go. I think maybe in addition to that primarily.
And also it's probably got something to do with like, kind of like the imagery of like the destroyed bear is sort of like a contrast of like Walter White, the father figure and family man, versus Walter White, the drug dealer.
And given what the bear is going to also link up to be, later on with the freeing of it all,
sure.
I think the middle ground is that it is Walt's actions and consequences. I think that's again, it's the cause and effect principle that Walt creates like he creates like a loss of innocence as well.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He kind of burns. He kind of takes. If you want to look at the bear, this is going to be, I'm reading too much into it. You look at the bear as just a manufactured product. Again, the product in equation to the whole drug aspect is like, okay, you have a product, and Walt has tampered. Walt has, through his own devices, he's sullied what it once was.
That's a bit of a reach, but
no, you're right. It's absolutely a reach, no question. Let's go with cause and effect thing. That's a lot. It's a lot better. So the point being, we have one choice that leads to a massive consequence, which again kills 167 people.
Yeah, big stuff. Big stuff.
Yep.
All right, and that will do it for season 2 of Good, the Bad, and the Breaking. Outside of our final thoughts, Dragon, what do you got?
Final thoughts for me. Look, I'm aware. We've drawn some focus to the negative stuff this season. Maybe more than most. Maybe more than we're probably.
Bad is literally in the title. I feel like the bad elements are kind of the reason why I wanted to do this. It's the most interesting part of this thought experiment for me, Dragon.
Oh, you're right. But I love that. Make no mistake, though. Make no mistake. This is a very key season in events. Let's not take any of that away from season 2. It's a very key season in everything. Even the 737 was all so it's a huge moment. But it's like some of my favorite episodes are in this season. At least like 3 or 4 of my favorite episodes of all time are in this season. So it's a key season. Again, season 2, it's got strong storytelling at play. It gave way to even better storytelling next seasons. Again, the cause and effect aspect really sets this season apart. With how perfectly everything kind of pays off. It's just a shame that, again, a bit of that lull between siestas in kind of our main story points, and that we couldn't. And maybe maybe that we couldn't take another pass at the Skylar stuff. I feel now, knowing what they learned now in Better Call Saul, had we gone back, perhaps we might have punched it up a little bit. I don't know. Live and learn.
Release the gold cut.
What?
Release the gold cut. I'm being silly.
But yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. I feel like then again, we need Skylar to get Kim Wexler, so we need a comparison to build to
Kim
perfection.
Wexler, Skylar walks so Kim Wexler could run. Dragon.
Yeah. So it's a live and learn season that gets ironed out and perfected as we go along. As I said, we don't get Wexler without seeing what not to do, in a sense. It's a solid Pinkman season. It's a bigger world that's introduced before our eyes, and you can't wait till we get there.
All right. Yeah, I honestly think I might have just a tiny bit more of an appreciation for this one than you do, just because, I did watch it live, and I think this is one of the more interesting seasons for the watching live element, just because of the, the 737 thing. But Dragon, like, really, some of the drug stuff in this season and the Jesse subplots really, really hit home on an emotional level. They really do. Like, genuinely, I find some of the season 2 stuff to be some of the most emotional content in the whole series. Between Peekaboo and Down and everything going on with his parents. I mean, it's genuinely tough stuff to watch, man. In a good way. But I do think that this season very ambitious with with the cold opens, and it really kind of set a tone. And I feel like it was kind of like the building blocks that Vince Gilligan and company sort of just built upon even further with the seasons going forward. And I'm excited to get to them. Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Well, folks, the high. One more time. I'm not going to go through a whole extended takes with this. I'm going to nail it. Well, folks, the highs. Oh my God, the high. I need the high has. I need to emphasize the high has. Well, folks, the highs worn off. Much like Walter White, we're out of time. But have an A1 day in the land of enchantment until the next visit to the Albuquerque verse, where we talk the good, the bad, and the breaking.
The blowfish puffs up Jesse.
What did you do to my deal?
My deal!